I think one of the hardest things to admit in adulthood is when the life you built no longer fits.
Yes, because you didn't build it accidentally. You made choices, you invested time, and you tried really hard.
Exactly. So when something feels off, the first instinct isn't curiosity, it's guilt.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why am I not satisfied? I should be grateful.
Mm-hmm. That word should. It's heavy. And I always say, don't should all over yourself. We inherit so many ideas about what life is supposed to look like. We've all been trained. And when you hit the milestones and something still feels unsettled, it's confusing. You're not sure which way to go.
For me, misalignment didn't show up as chaos, it showed up as heaviness. Like everything worked, but it just didn't feel light.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's not dramatic, it's subtle. It's waking up tired in a way that sleep doesn't fix.
Yes, and I think most people try to override that feeling. They work harder, they push through,
Mm-hmm.
they stay busy, and for many men, myself included, do not say anything because you do not want to appear weak. That was ingrained in me growing up and in the army.
Yes, or some people just numb it. They stuff it down. And because sitting with this doesn't fit anymore is so scary, sometimes people feel like they're ungrateful or selfish or what's wrong with me? Why can't I make this work?
But noticing misalignment isn't selfish, it's
Mm-mm.
honest.
Absolutely. And honesty doesn't automatically mean you blow everything up. That's so important. You start that self reflection.
Right, there's a difference between awareness and reaction.
Mm-hmm.
You can notice something isn't fitting without making an impulsive move.
Yep, that's true. You take some time to be able to respond, not react. And sometimes that awareness alone changes how you show up, even before anything external happens. It's got to be internal before we start doing the external.
That's true. And for me, a lot of growth came from just admitting privately at first that I'd changed. I didn't even realize that I'd changed for quite a while. Maybe it wasn't dramatically, but over time, it was enough.
Mm-hmm. I would agree with that. We don't talk about that enough. People evolve, it's natural. Values shift, needs change. And that doesn't mean the past was wrong. It just means you're not the same person anymore. We're all evolving all the time.
Yes, we expect growth in our fitness. We expect growth in our careers, but we're uncomfortable when growth affects our identity.
Oh, yeah, because we're awful comfortable with that. But it also affects our relationships.
Yep,
Very uncomfortable.
right. Or our roles. Retirement, for example, that's a life you built.
Mm-hmm.
And when that season ends, you can feel untethered.
Yep. And the other one is empty nesting. It's the same. You spend decades being needed in a certain way, and then that changes. You ask, who am I? What's my purpose?
And if your identity was tied tightly to that role,
Mm-hmm.
it can feel like you lost yourself.
Yep. I happened to me. And maybe you didn't lose yourself, but maybe you're on your way to finding a new version of yourself.
And I think that's what this episode is really about,
Mm-hmm.
right? Not dissatisfaction, but evolution.
Yes, we all are evolving all the time. And it's about giving yourself permission to admit something feels misaligned. It's okay without turning that into a crisis. Awareness is the first step.
Because when you suppress misalignment long enough, that's when it explodes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, stuffing it down is not going to solve the problem. But when you notice it early, you can move through it thoughtfully. You can be aware when something is uncomfortable, or you can address it with that person or address it in yourself.
Yes, exactly. You don't have to burn everything down to adjust.
Mm-mm. Sometimes it's just a shift in perspective or boundaries or priorities. It could just be a conversation.
Right. And sometimes it's bigger. But either way, the starting point is honesty.
Yes, honesty with yourself can sometimes be really scary. But I think if somebody's watching this and they're feeling that quiet heaviness, it doesn't mean you failed your life.
Exactly. It might just mean you've grown.
Which is a great thing. And growth doesn't always feel that exciting, like I am. But a lot of times it feels very uncomfortable at first.
But discomfort isn't always danger, right?
Nope. I tell people, get comfortable being uncomfortable. That's when growth is happening. But remember, that change, that discomfort, it sometimes is information for you.
And information gives you choice.
Absolutely. So that's a wrap for today's episode of The In-Between.
If this conversation resonated, don't just close the tab and move on. Sit with it. Reflect on it. Share it with someone who needs to hear it.
Yep, we're all about sharing the love. Make sure you're following the channel so that you don't miss what's coming next. You're going to like it.
We hope so. And next Wednesday, we're diving into a powerful conversation, staying versus leaving, why both are hard.
Oh, man. Both of those are so hard because neither choice is simple and neither path guarantees comfort at all.
Yep, exactly. Staying requires honesty. Leaving requires courage.
Yeah, both are not easy decisions by any means, but they do both require responsibility to yourself and to others.
Yes, and the real question isn't which one is easier, it's which one is aligned.
Aligned with where you want to go in your life. Absolutely. We're going to explore that next time.
Subscribe,
stay connected,
and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye.